I'll try and knock this off quickly, but it's going to be long. Layer 85, as usual with Mama Ayahuasca and the fantastic shaman. Everything always comes out in the wash. So after the chaos of Layer 84 on Monday, Layer 85 was some wonderful visions for me, a gift. So a lot happened in the last couple of days with Ina and talking to Maestro, and it's just wonderful the last couple of days. Things are, I'm sitting in on Maestro's chats with the clients now after having conversations with them first and asking them that it's okay. So it's difficult to know where to start, but I'm just going to say the vision first because this is really important. Maestro was ecstatic about it as well. He said, this is the sort of gifts along the path that you get given, these wonderful gifts. It's really lovely and it's really important. Because at one point in last night's ceremony, I started to get the spirit of the Andes Mountains talking to me. Completely, I was like, wow, it's not even anything to do with ayahuasca, but he explained that they're very similar to Mama Ayahuasca, but they are different spiritual entities. And obviously I'm thinking, well, maybe because I've done San Pedro and I know about Santiago's prayer to the mountain when he fought the demon back in Ecuador, and he prayed to the mountain told him, forget that, it's stronger than you, you're not going to win that physical. When this demon was throwing him around, the Maloka, this woman who was possessed, and so this mountain spirit was talking to me and just giving me some nice lessons and stuff. And then next thing, it showed me like at the edge of a mountain, and all these rocks fell down the side of it. And then at the bottom, I was sort of brought into where these rocks had fallen. And he said, look at the bottom of the rocks, there's a present for you. And it was an ingot of gold, a bar of gold. And when I got there, he said, open it up. So I with my thumbnails, I peeled open this bar of gold. And inside was a tiny little pearl, like a pill. And he said, oh yeah, before that, another part of this story, that's right. Yeah, anyway, no, it doesn't matter which way around I say it. So anyway, he gave me this sort of question, what is it? He said, it's a gift. He said, this pill, he said, you can swallow it for protection. And sort of in the vision, I swallowed it. But then I also it was there again in my thumb and finger. And he said, put it somewhere safe. He said, this pearl contains the spiritual energy of all life on earth. Keep it safe. And I'm thinking, well, where do I put it? And he said, so, like a pocket. And then I thought, it closed no good. And then I was in ceremony, I'm wearing my moonstone. Where is it? It's disappeared. That's typical. So I'm wearing my moonstone, and of course it's in a vision. So I'm wearing my moonstone, and of course in the vision. So I just put the pearl inside here. And he said, oh, excellent idea. He said, you'll never forget where it is because you wear this a lot. And he started telling me, which could be coincidence, about that reading that I had with Seon back in my first book, who said about my spirit being old. And he said, your spirit is very old. I said, how old? He said, like thousands of years. I said, could you be more specific, knowing that the DNA heritage of humans goes back 320,000 years at present? He said it goes back, and he used the term, it goes back to the origin, which is what Seon wrote in that prediction, saying about how old my spirit was. Your spirit goes back to the time of the origin. I didn't know what the origin meant. So, but he explained it. He said, yeah, he said, all of your past lives, you've been Knight Templar warrior, wizard, shaman. In all your lives, and you're one of the oldest spirits. You were there at the origin as one of the first shamans. So it's a wonderful vision. I don't know if it's true. It's a lovely story. It's beautiful for me. It said, goes right the way back to the time one of the first shamans, and I saw me, but I was someone else, and I'm really close. But and this me, this sat with kind of, I can't really remember the clothing. It was just like basic clothing. Someone middle-aged just sat in this field, sat next to this little group of magic mushrooms, and he was the mountain spirit was explaining to me that that was me, way back then, the origins of shamanism, where someone spiritually sensitive is being talked to by the first plant spirits and being told, eat the mushrooms to get a better connection with the plants and learn more information. So that was amazing. But Maestro was really, when I told him about the gift of the pearl, he was like really animated. He said, wow, he said, really beautiful gift. This is really important when you get these gifts, especially something of that significance about this pill that I told him that could swallow and it would be protection. And then he started telling me about dietas with the trees and stuff, because we've spoken a lot about that, because he sings the tree spirits for the tree spirits. I've got to learn the names of all those. The only one I remember is the almond tree, Almondrita, which is a little almond tree. And explaining about the bark of, especially the one on the jungle walk. I think I mentioned that in the last video, where it's like you knock it with your fist and it's like concrete. It's rock hard, but really smooth. And you can dieta the bark of these trees and get that spiritual protection and get make yourself really fortified against dark energy, because it will bounce off. So it was great. And then the second vision was really weird. It was really amusing. I was just in like this sort of dark space, like an underground room, but with a bit of light. And the next thing shuffling towards me was like a 2 foot long, again, usual, pretty horrible looking demon, like insecty, trilobite kind of thing, pincery things, but these big bulging eyes, but they were like round, and like it was looking a bit bonkers, like it was like not with it. And this thing came trundling along, and it spoke to me, and it said, message for you, like in this weird, couldn't speak properly, but message for you, lesson. And of course I'm looking at this thing, and I just said, looked at it, and like, who sent you? And he said, Mama Ayahuasca, mind control. So it's Mama Ayahuasca was mind controlling this fucking demon to come up and have a conversation with me and explain to me about basically their mentality. And then behind me became aware of a girl, as if she was tied up in a basement like a sexual slave, youngish girl, wearing just a white shirt, naked from the waist down, but covered by a white shirt. And then this thing shuffled over toward her, and it had this pincer thing, and it was going up towards her genitals, as if, like, as if interfering, as if this is what we like this. This is what. So again, hinting at the corruption of sexual abuse and corruption of children, which I knew anyway. That's the prime goal for these things. They love to corrupt an innocent child through sexual abuse, because it corrupts the child for life, gives them post-traumatic stress disorder and everything, and allows the ingress of demons into the innocent child. Again, corruption of the divine. And of course, so anyway, it told me this story, and then of course I said to it, well, unfortunately, you know what's coming next. It just sort of like, I seemed kind of glad to be put out of this misery of the mind control of Mama Ayahuasca. So I had my sword and just slayed it. Maestro thought that was quite amusing. I told him the story. So, but what happened that was really nice today, I spoke to Ina. Last night was a really nice ceremony. Everyone was hugging each other afterwards. and they're all pretty buoyant, and no one having a hard time at the end. So everyone's quite chatty and huggy, so at one point I went over and to Ina, I gave her a hug and said, you've been wonderful to go through what you went through. I said, you've just been such a fantastic example to everybody of your ability to endure and push through and go through the hardship that you went through and continue the journey. And you've just been I'm so proud of you. And she was so thankful for this. And I said, I'd really like to talk to you a bit more. And she said, okay, well, tomorrow. And then at lunch today, she was sat next to me, and then as we all got up to leave, she just said, can I have a chat with you? I said, yeah, sure. So do you want to go to Maloka? So we sat in the Maloka for about an hour, and it was kind of a bit of a test for me, because dealing with the clients and I'm not staff. I was thinking on the walk toward it, thinking, I've got to be really careful here how I broach this topic, how we're going to talk about whatever, because I don't know what her knowledge is, what she believes about levels of sort of demonic possession, but she turns out she knows a lot, because since she was a kid, she's always felt that she's been attacked by spirits, getting into her head, voices in her head, causing negativity. But she also told me about her grandmother was a very negative sort of person, so she's always had this real sensitivity and been able to see kind of negative sort of spirits and entities since she was young. So she's very sensitive, but she's a really strong person, and always been kind of felt that she didn't fit in the world and this kind of thing. So it was, basically I told her my lessons from Mama Ayahuasca, how to live in the real world, keep yourself in a bubble. I'm going to send the video of observe and accept, so that you don't get emotionally involved with the real world, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to accept it for the way it is, and not let it drag you into its darkness, so that you get pulled down as well. So we had a great chat, and she's lovely, and I was mentioned about dietas might be an idea to keep a connection, because she was asking me, she said, I don't know how to, because I'm really afraid that when I go back to the real world, I'm just going to get attacked again. And I said, look, I'll have a word with Maestro. I said, I've given he's given me like the strongest arcana, old arcana that's in his family. I'll have a word with him and say, maybe it's an idea for her. And also about doing a dieta with him at some point if she comes back in the future, and she was really open to that idea, and so she's got a connection to her plant to give her that security, and about staying connected. Like Mama's bollocked me loads of times for dropping out and getting sucked into negativity, and at one point doing rapé and smoking tobacco without the initial reverence and the thanks to the plants for all they've done, because it's all about respect for the plants, and if the disrespect gets punished. But in our situation, when you've got people like her who are that sensitive, and obviously and also the war kicked off for her, it caused not friction between them, but her husband's Russian and she's Ukrainian, although it doesn't affect her family, but they both live in London and they want to get married, and it's just a difficult situation with that going on as well, because being both nationals of that country, and having to see the violence on both sides. But the bulk of the problem seems to stem from childhood. So again, the demons that she was carrying on board, they were super strong. But she knew about it, once it was explained to her. So I explained to her, once I broached the subject, knew she was cool with it. I said, do you want me to tell you what it was like from our perspective when we were on our house? She said, yeah, I want to know everything, what was going on. So I explained to her what I perceived as these demons. And then I said, what was it like for you? And she said, it was horrible. She said, because I was just this ranting, raving lunatic, but I had no control over it whatsoever. It's like I knew I was doing it, but I couldn't control it. And smashing up the room, and that's how she damaged her knees, probably banging into stuff or kicking stuff or whatever. And so, but she was cool afterwards, and I just gave her as much information that has helped me, and that Mama Ayahuasca has given to me to help me get through how to cope in the real world, and it's eventually it really all boils down to faith, But so you have to come back to the plants. Always after the experience you've had now through this week of ayahuasca, you always have that with you. Don't lose it. I said I have many times you drop out, and that's fine. But if in your situation where you're really worried about being attacked and having these demons come back in and start controlling you and pulling you down into the negativity of the world, because obviously she's, like all of us, we suffer depression because we know what goes on in the world, and it's a depressing place to be for people, for good people, seeing how it's all gone to shit and everyone else, just accepting it all, just being brainwashed into the whole aspect of, the powers that be taking control of people and controlling their minds through the media and the brainwashing and the bullshit and the lies. So it was just a really nice conversation. And then when I got back to my room, I thought, I was a bit bored. I got energy today, and I just thought, I'd like to see when she goes in to talk to Maestro. But I'd already missed her, unfortunately. But when I came out, Quentin, who's the big black guy from the States, he's lovely. He came into my room last night. We had a fantastic chat for an hour. He knows everything that I do. He's watched all the David Icke stuff. He's read loads of books on Masonry. He was involved in a religious cult for 2 years, so it was really interesting. So how did you get involved in that? And because we were both pretty high, in a good mood, so we were having a bit of a laugh. He was a bit of a hedonist in his day, party animal. He's only 31, but sussed. He's always had a good job with good money. But he said, he got kind of roasted in ayahuasca for basically realizing what a bad person he's become, just that typical Western attitude of not caring about other people. And he had a girlfriend in Colombia, and he said that was really eye-opening to go and see how they live. So we had a great conversation. I planted the idea of, the path of shamanism for him, because I think he'd make a really good shaman. Because he's now found what he needs. Mama Ayahuasca's given him, because he said he was just used to be smoke loads of pot and drink, and he just didn't have any respect for anybody, or certainly the plants. He didn't. And he got roasted in ayahuasca, shown himself, the mirror of truth kind of thing. So he got shown himself what he's been like, and felt terrible for sort of being that callous and selfish, that kind of thing. So he's now also thinking about having a dieta with Maestro. So there's now 4 of us. Maestro's going to do well out of this. He's always going to have private clients in his little place that he's got, the tranquil place that he's got out in the jungle, where I'll be going in January to continue my dietas. And he said to me today, we had a chat after seeing all the clients today, we'll have to continue tomorrow because there's so many of us. We got through 4 or 5 today, and we'll have to do the other 3. But it was great sitting in with Lady and Christian gave us, no, you're the Maestro, you're training this, it's good for you, it's experience. So I did a bit of translation for Maestro, and little bits of it was too complicated a story, then Christian would translate. So it was just a really nice experience, and then it left me and Maestro alone afterwards to have a bit more of a chat. And he was explaining to me about, he said, when I do the dietas with you, he said, I'll be explaining more, because I was saying, I got told anything. I told him some of the horrendous circumstances I've been in with my situation in Mankara. After 20 ceremonies, not being told anything about the consequences of drinking alcohol after 20 ceremonies, going on a fucking binge binger scenario and parties at Christmas and whatnot, and then ending up in the friggin' medical clinic, and then being told by the shamana, Flower of Life, that if I ever touched alcohol again, she'd fix me, but if I ever touched alcohol again, I would die. And Mum has said it to me since, just as a reminder. He said, can you imagine what you was bad enough after 20 ceremonies? Can you imagine what would happen to you if you touched alcohol now in your 80s ceremonies? He said, not only would you definitely die, it would be a horrendous death. And I was like, I know. Fuck that. So, but lovely. And I can't remember. I also had Maestro called Papa Julio down again, and at one point in the ceremony, he started having a conversation with me. But I can't really remember. It was just general stuff, just general information about ayahuasca and the way the plant spirits work. I can't remember the details really, but just nice to have him sort of, have time for me in that respect. Probably about 5 minute conversations, doing the talking. So that was nice. I did tell Maestro after, because I'd forgotten in my chat, and told him, so I couldn't really remember, but it reminded me of another time when Papa Julio was present. I kept getting this voice in my head, like when I'm having a conversation with Mama Ayahuasca, but then the odd word that would go blank, but it would be replaced by something really horrible. And so many times it's happened, I'm going, oh, what the fuck is, what is that in my head that's like corrupting the conversation? It's not me. That's not what I meant to say. I never got an answer to it. And then a few weeks ago, Papa Julio was there, and this happened in a conversation. And Papa Julio was there. I might have even been talking to him, and this again something shit, a swear word or like a horrible name had come out in conversation, and then just be a swear word. It's like, what the fuck is that? And then at one point, this kind of almost Viking kind of armored looking Papa Julio with this big fucking gloved hand just stuck his hand straight inside my head and pulled something out like a little thorn or something. So that was weird, but it's great having super powerful fucking spirit of a shaman, that Antonor and Nahairo can call on when, things get really tough. It's just the pinnacle of shamanic fucking capability and energy. So, the protection's incredible. So it's a wonderful situation to be in. So it's been great this week. Such a learning curve. And, from Monday when it was looking kind of worrisome for everybody, but everyone was just really concerned about her, and that the main concern was that it would be too much for her. That was my main concern, that she wouldn't continue, because in your situation like that, they have to. You want to get rid of it, it's got to be completely clean. You got to get all of that out. And I said to Maestro today, is she clean? Because we spoke yesterday and said about how is he going to handle the second ceremony? Is there a residue? And they said, a bit left. I said, but I'm going to give her just a tiny, tiny amount of ayahuasca, so there's no lack of control. Because he said he got rid of nearly all of it, but there's always residue, as I know too well, from my hex and from the demon. It leaves residue even in the physical form, the body, which ends up getting shit out for even over the next week. In my case, or worse, that machismo. God, I was still fucking cleaning that out, the residue of it, for ages. Even though the bulk of it, or the demon, and then the hex itself is removed, the residue, the damage it kind of does in the spiritual sense still needs to be kind of flushed out your body in the real world, through diarrhea and vomiting. So she only had a tiny bit of eye. She was fine, silent all night. So that's great. She's good now. And then we've got tomorrow to look forward to, which will be Arcana night. And I've told her, you'll have. When I spoke to Maestro, although he'd already spoken to her, but I mentioned to Maestro after talking to her that he came into the Maloka right after I'd had the conversation with her, which is why I was first today, because I was already there. And I told him and Lady and Christian the conversation, wonderful conversation I just had, explained a lot to help her. And he said, oh, excellent, yeah, that's good. I said, but obviously you know better, but just my opinion is to give her the peace of mind and not have fear. Is it possible that maybe she could have the same arcana that I got, because she's still afraid that she's going to get attacked when she goes back into the real world. He's saying to be able to come back and affect her mind and be able to. He said, yeah. He said, and also suggested dieta, and he said, yeah. I've told her it would be a good idea for her to do a dieta with me, just so she's actually got a definite spiritual connection to a plant. And of course, this changes the way people act in their life. Just find the time just to meditate, a couple of minutes, just saying a little prayer, thanks to the plants, keep you connected, so that you're not susceptible to being sucked back into the darkness. So anyway, it's a wonderful, been a wonderful last couple of days, incredible. And then to get this little gift of the pearl from the spirits of the mountains, which is normally associated with San Pedro, you know. So it was wonderful. So anyway, that's pretty much that. 85.